Daily Broadside Day 529. You may be asking yourself, what vehicle are you on today? I'm on my new Kubota tractor. That's right, folks. I bought a new L2502 four-wheel drive 2024 model, gear driven, because that hydrostatic crap is for pussies. And this thing is awesome. I got a backhoe, I got a front end loader, I got pallet forks, and I got the box scraper. And I have been on this thing. I put 4 hours on it so far, and I have ripped out 3 or 4 stumps. I dug like a 100-foot irrigation ditch, cleaned up the property, kind of tidied up my burn pile. This thing is awesome. Does everything I want it to do. It's great. They make some cool stuff. I am very happy. So I'm doing a broadside from a tractor today. So yeah, got my shuttle shift. There's like 3 things you got to put this thing in neutral to get it to start, but gear drives everywhere. It's so cool, man. This is like, I did a lot of research on what I wanted, and Kubota knocked it out of the park. Plus, I hate John Deere. I just can't stand them. I wouldn't give them my money if I had to. I'd just as soon do without. And speaking of things, by the way, I've tried to get this thing stuck today. And with the diff lock and the 4-wheel drive and just the torque and the traction and the gearing, it's been kind of difficult. I've put it in some precarious positions and some kind of muddy, weird, precarious positions, and comes right out. So I've been very impressed with it so far. It's a very, very nice piece of equipment. Yeah, I think I'm going to drive it to the beer store later just because I can. It's not far up the road. Anyway, speaking of vehicles with a lot of low-end torque, I used to have a 1977 F250 with like a 7-inch lift on 37-inch Super Swamper TSL SXs, 429 swapped in big block. It had a MP 435 4-speed. A granny low. It was geared 456 in the rear, Dana 60s front and rear. And that thing would climb a mountain. It was insane. It literally got 7 or 8 miles to the gallon on the highway. So I had to sell it eventually. I couldn't afford to drive it once I had a child, needed a car seat. It was not the most practical thing, but God, it sounded so good, right? Well, one night I was riding around in a neighboring city, and back in the day, and I don't know if they still have them or not, but the Land Rover dealerships had their little obstacle course, you could drive your new Discovery over it to prove the breakover angle and the slope and all that kind of stuff, what it would do. And normally they would park the cars in front of it so that people couldn't, trespass and go on it and whatnot. And they forgot to park something there one night. And I took this long bed F-250 over that damn thing, and like on the little side hill and all. It was quite precarious at times, but I gotta say, it made it, and I didn't have to pay, at the time, $45,000 for a Discovery. Capable vehicles when they're running, but J.D. Power and Associates annually ranks them as one of the worst investments you can make in a vehicle maintenance standpoint. When I was a kid, there was a dog that lived right behind me and to the left. Little cattywampus, is that the word? Diagonally across from my backyard. And there was a dog that was kept in a pen. His name was Joshua. And sometime when I was probably like 11 years old, Joshua had some malady that made him have to lose his eyeballs. And I happened to be out playing one day, and the vet came to the house of this man's house, and they surgically took the eyeballs out of Joshua's head. And I stood there and watched this, and I was like, man, this is weird. Like, we had a dog. We had a little Chihuahua, and it went to a vet who, oddly enough, just recently retired in the last 6 months. Dude put in a long career because that dog died like 30 years ago. Anyway, man, yeah, he must have worked for like 40-some years. Anyway, he had like one of those weird perms, and he had a perm that was way too late in life to have a perm. Like how the male perm thing ended sometime in the 80s, and then he rocked it on into like the 2000s or whatnot. But at any rate, he had like a Eugene Levy look going on. He was very Eugene Levy-ish. But I just thought it was weird because we took our dog to the vet to get him treated for stuff, and this dog is being treated in the backyard, and they cut his eyeballs out, removed them, and then crudely sewed them shut. It was a cross between, the Alice in Chains video from Man in the Box. The guy's got his eyes crudely sewn shut, and the dude in the Beastmaster, who's like, I can't remember how he lost his eyes, but you remember he's like preaching to like the people to rise up and fight against the Jun horde. And he's got the same thing going on. It might actually be the same dude that played the video character and whatnot, but that's what Joshua looked like. And he just had like just the most crudely sewn shut eyes and whatnot, but it was so cool. So anybody that would come over to my house, I'd be like, hey, you want to see something cool? And invariably, the other 11-year-old boy would be like, I do. I'm like, check this out. You ever seen a dog with no eyes? And Joshua just had no eyes, and everybody's seen a blind dog. That's no big deal. But for whatever reason, they just sewed this dog's eyes shut. And I just thought that was so badass. Like, I lived next to like the coolest dog. And Joshua was a pretty cool dog. He didn't leave his little 15 by 10 pen. Like, he never came out. He just stayed in that pen. So it stunk to high heaven in there because he's just right there. He doesn't go anywhere. But a very kind dog, and I think it's very humbling, too, when you lose your eyeballs. You have to become humbling. It's kind of like I say, you never made anybody that's got cancer who's an asshole. They might have been an asshole pre-cancer, but once they have cancer, best dude in the world, best chick in the world. They just become good humans, And there's a lot of people right now that probably need cancer, survivable cancer, to give them a second lease on life so that they can go, I've been an asshole and I've got to make amends. Kind of like when I don't know what step it is. Let's call it step 6, where like the alcoholics have to go back and apologize to all the people that they've wronged. That's what asshole cancer survivor patients need to do. They need to have that awakening to where they're like, I've just been a dick tool my entire life and it's time to atone. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So Joshua he was always a pretty cool, not only dog in the neighborhood, but exhibit, I remember one time they were walking him. It was one of the rare times they brought him out. And I just remember, like, looking at him, and he's like, he knew how to get around his 10 by 15 little kennel pen, right? Pennel. I guess it's called a pennel. A kennel pen? Pennel. He was walking around his pennel, and he knew where everything was. The water bowl's over there. It's like 8 paces to the left, and my little afternoon nap spot's about 11 paces over there, and then my doghouse is over there. But when you put him out on the road, the dog's just a little skittish because he can't see anything. He's running into stuff and whatnot. But at any rate, I think we need to bring back Zeppelin airships for travel. It would cost an arm and a leg, I'm sure. And the threat of death from explosion or sabotage, whatever you want to believe about the Hindenburg. I lean towards sabotage. And mostly because I love the French word saboteur. I think that's cool. It'd be cool to be a saboteur. Even if you're the most, less than novel but really evil saboteur, at least people would refer to you as a saboteur. And that'd just be a cool moniker. But anyway, I think we bring that stuff back and put some class into the sky. You remember back in like the TWA, I think it was TWA days where you had to you dressed up, like everybody got in like a dang suit. It's like they're going to a wedding to fly, the Catch Me If You Can kind of era, the 60s, 50s, whatever it was, when air travel was a thing. They broke out the China and everybody's dressed to the nines, like they're going to a play or a bar mitzvah or something. It's kind of cool, man. And you could bring that back with air travel. By the way, there's a difference between a blimp and a Zeppelin, lest you were thinking they were the one and the same. A blimp is just filled with, air that rises and has no structure. It's just basically a hot air balloon with not an open hole necessarily. And then a Zeppelin has some kind of semi-rigid or rigid frame. So speaking of frames, I put 4 hours on this thing. I think I got about another hour, and it's got quite the stiff frame because it's got to hold that big BH-77 backhoe that I have dug the ever-living piss out of with, and it just keeps asking for more. Hey, kitty.